Hey guys, how's it going?
Hello. Still
Hey,
chewing my
That's
last
good to see you
my
guys.
last
Yeah,
piece of
I'm
cake.
like, Lynn and I are actually eating. We're hoping that you'll forgive us since, this is kind of like a food-based stream.
And it's a late lunch for me. I hadn't eaten yet because I'm on the West Coast, and so for me it's 2 o'clock. And so
But I don't want to do any ASMR because, that makes me feel a weird way.
yeah. So I was
Does it
just
do that to you
thinking,
guys? It makes my stomach hurt.
I haven't ever done the real ASMR before, so I don't know.
what is that, if I may ask? I feel ignorant.
Um, what is it saying for? It's like
We talked about
it's basically like when people do like this.
it's the noises.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
like,
Okay.
we're
Yeah,
not
when
doing
You
that,
know,
guys.
it's
We're
a
not doing
world
that.
of acronyms, and often they have many meanings too. So it's
What does
like,
it stand for, Lynn? I can't remember.
autonomous sensory meridian response.
Yes. Well, my
So
meridian response is nausea.
it's nausea. Well, that's not good. That's not good. So, okay, so you can have eating sounds, ASMR eating sounds. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're going to give people some ASMR with our eating sounds. But I'm done. I finished
Yeah,
my
I'm done.
steak and I'm done chewing and
All
so,
right, let's get to talking about this book. So this week we are on chapters 8, 9, 10, and 11 of Lies My Doctor Told Me by Ken D. Berry, MD. And it's awesome as always. What'd you guys think about this week?
I was really, of course, it's a background with GI. I think I have a lot to say about chapter 9 in particular because of the focus of that chapter with nuts and seeds and diverticulitis. But no, I'm glad he did chapter 8 on exercise because that's a topic that, we think about. We're always talking about diet, and what we eat. But I'm glad that he brought in chapter 8, especially for me who hates exercise. Or I'm trying to learn not to hate exercise, but I definitely do not like purposeful, like working out.
Yeah.
I like activity, being active and things that's fun.
Same, yes.
yeah.
One thing I really have enjoyed doing, and I've done this since I was a child, so I reintroduced it as an adult, is roller skating. I've been going roller skating a lot lately.
Oh,
And
I
well,
saw a video
not a
that
lot,
you did.
but it's just been
That's so
so
fun.
fun. And it just like that kind of exercise is just, I mean, it's just awesome.
And it doesn't feel like a workout or whatever. And I think that's
Right.
the thing, is finding something, like Dr. Berry said in this chapter, find something that you enjoy. Because he was like, I don't go to the gym, and I won't go to the gym for free. Because, I mean, really, if something's a chore, you're just less likely to do
Right.
it. You can maybe force yourself for a while, but and why make yourself miserable? So, yeah, physical
Yeah.
activity is very, very important. I mean, for other reasons, not weight loss.
Yeah.
It's just important to keep everything moving and keep your range of motion. And it's good for your brain and endorphins and all that. But it's just, it shouldn't be something that you have to force yourself to do.
Right.
It should just be something that's natural in your daily life. But one thing I really resonated with this chapter, not so much in terms of just like the exercise, but when he was talking about, well, it fits in though because of the burning calories, because of the whole CICO, calories in, calories out. So you have to, the old theory is, take in less calories than you use. So if you do that, you'll lose weight. And back in the 80s, when my brothers and I, especially the oldest of my two brothers, we were only 3 years apart, and we were both tall, skinny, bony people, just very slim. And we were actually wanting to bulk up. So we were putting our money together to get these Weider protein powders and stuff. And but we, back then, we were looking at like, okay, well, what's it going to take? And like a 1 pound is 3,500 calories. And we were like, gosh, we're going to have to eat a ton, because what we're eating now, I mean, obviously we were thin, so we were going to have to eat a lot. So it was obvious to us that something wasn't right with that, because, metabolism, in other words, in later years, after I really looked into stuff, I mean, like what you're eating really factors into that and how your body metabolizes it. It's not so much just, this many calories. So a calorie really isn't a calorie. It's what you're putting into your body. And I think those of us on this way of eating especially can attest to that, because
and how much is absorbed of what you're eating, and how much is going straight through, because it's full of fiber, and it's, nutrients are getting trapped in the fiber and going straight through. So your body, who knows what you're actually really absorbing. But I know I used to, there were times where I've had gym memberships. Now, my husband has forbid me from ever having another fit gym membership in my life.
Same.
Because I can't tell you how many times I got a gym membership and went once or twice, and then that was it. And he's like, no, we are not wasting our money on gym memberships. But I remember when I used to go, and I'm like, okay, now how much do I have to work out to burn X number of calories? It was like, seriously, it took me 2 seconds to eat that, and I got to work out for an hour to burn it off at an intensity beyond my fitness level. So
I mean, some of those numbers are ridiculously low, like for the activity. I mean, in my mind, it's like, really, you only burn 245 calories, but you walk 2 miles. I mean, for an example, it's just like, something is just not right with that whole calories thing. And
it's not. And that's the whole thing that he talks about, it being the lie. And Lindy, I have my rebounder too, and I'm loving it as well. I see she mentioned she has her rebounder, and that is awesome. And I have a step challenge for myself for February, and if it's all rainy out, the rebounder can actually count as steps.
I want a rebounder.
I'll send you.
I have a rebounder. It's called a mini trampoline.
Well, nowadays they call it a rebounder. Like I was calling it a trampoline, and I figured out, oh, wait a minute, now it's called a rebounder. But I have the one that has the bar. It attaches to it.
So what do you do with the bar? Do you like do
hold on for dear life?
Do you do splits in the air?
You know what? If I even get any distance between the actual trampoline and my feet, it's a miracle. Occasionally I do, but I've learned so much about the rebounder that you really can't go from not using one to going crazy jumping if you're in bad shape like me. And because it gets the lymphatic system pumping, and you release all these toxins. And I think that happened to me the first week I had it, because I was like, woo, I'm so excited. This
is fun.
This is fun. I was doing all that stuff, and I was going a little bit more bouncing than I should have. And man, then I felt horrible after like several days of that. I was exhausted and achy and just felt like, and I figured out just through people like commenting on my channel, because I was like online venting about how horrible I felt. And they said, it's probably your lymphatic system purging. Yeah.
Wow.
So, well, I like to go to the trampoline parks with my kids, and
maybe you can do
not anywhere but there, but at the trampoline parks, I can still do backflips.
Wow.
Really?
Like back layouts, back handsprings, stuff like that.
You were a cheerleader, right? So you probably learned all that stuff.
Yeah, my last actual back handspring was probably, I think I was probably about 25, or I might have been even 30. I was way too old to be doing that. And I had a few drinks and got out in the yard, and I was like, hey, y'all, look, I can do back handsprings. I'm sure I can still do one, right? Oh man, it was painful.
Yeah.
I landed on my hands, and then my head just hit.
Oh,
it hurt so bad. I'm like, I didn't end up with a head bleed.
Sandra, it reminds me too. I know Bill not ordered one, and I was worried about him after I got mine, and I saw that how I was. I'm like, oh my goodness, like how is he going to do? You got to definitely have the reeling. But I know with the injury, like even just bouncing without going off of the ground or off of the trampoline and just kind of doing the bouncing motion gets things moving. And you have to do a little bit at a time because man, it is a calf workout. Just a little bit of like this with your foot and bouncing. And I'll kind of hold on and I'll just kind of step like I'm walking a little bit, but not even really hardly putting my feet, just kind of one knee at a time. It's a workout. So I wouldn't if your balance is terrible, yeah, then don't do it. But if you can actually hang on to something and keep your balance, it's probably a good thing to start out doing and just kind of bounce a little bit. And yeah, low impact on the joints. That's right. With those planks there, Lynn, don't worry about you know it will be the perfect hold.
Well, they do have classes on that, Lynn. Maybe you could take up a class.
Maybe one of these days, you never know. I'll take a class. I did my last plank for my January plank challenge, and it was 1 minute and 11 seconds.
Oh, wow. That is
Wow,
fabulous.
that is really
My
good.
first one was 8 seconds. So I got added over a minute.
You're getting strong.
Yeah. So her feet don't leave the mat. Gentle bouncing, move her arms few minutes at a time. Yes, that's exactly what I do too. Because you just have to be so careful not to injure yourself. Not all of us are like Kim.
Evidently, I don't know. Maybe I'm doing better than I thought.
Yeah. Do you want me to read the quote at the beginning of the chapter?
Oh yeah, I love this quote.
Lovely.
Okay, so this is a quote by Oliver Wendell Holmes, and he says, "I firmly believe that if the whole materia medica could be sunk to the bottom of the sea, it would be all the better for mankind and all the worse for the fishes." So he did not believe in our medical system. And then the lie for this chapter is, if you exercise more, you will lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you guys, but I've heard that so many times from doctors and from health experts.
From everybody.
Yeah. But according to Dr. Barry, who dug in trying to find the research, he said that he came away empty-handed. But he also mentioned that that the doctors will even belittle you if you doubt that this lie is true, which is unfortunate. But I think one of the things for this chapter that really kind of jumped out at me was he on the common sense portion, because like you were talking about, Carrie, it intuitively seems like it would make sense that if you burn calories from exercise that you would lose weight and you end up with a calorie deficit, right? But he said sometimes common sense is sometimes wrong. And
now I thought about it, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but this fits because I thought of it in the opposite way, in that exercise would make you eat more because, like, for example, you save up, like if you exercise or whatever, you are saving up, like, so you'll eat a lot later, for example. You know what I'm saying? So like if you do something and then you decide not to eat because you're going to eat later, it makes you eat more. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, or I just think it's the opposite. I'm trying to verbalize it in a way. But
you're always looking at it from the perspective of someone who wanted to bulk up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, my perspective was always like, well, losing weight. So you got to burn calories to lose weight. But yeah, I can see what you're saying, that it could make you eat more later, and it could encourage your body to want to eat more later if you burn.
Yeah, because when you expend energy and stuff, then you have to fuel it.
Right.
And so it, somebody that's sedentary might, if excluding the fact that you might be eating because you're bored or something, but I'm just saying, if you're not doing that much, you really don't have that need for much. but in general, but if you're active and stuff, then you're hungry, you eat more.
Right. Like
to
people who like
fuel.
farmers and stuff that they like
Mhm.
farmers that are out there working, or ranchers, or people that have property and they're working and they're cutting,
Yeah.
wood, and they're doing all this stuff. They have these really amazing appetites, but they want the hearty food, right? And then they can
Mhm.
eat more, but then they, they get a lot of exercise. But that intuitively, though, you look at those people and you go, but they're not overweight. So it must be all this physical activity that's causing them to be lean. And that's what he's saying. There's no research to back that up.
Mhm.
So maybe what they're eating.
Building your muscles though does increase your metabolism.
Right.
So I mean, there's some benefit to it other than, I mean, that could potentially lead to a little bit of an increase in weight loss,
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, it's just interesting that he said that he came up empty-handed when he looked for research. So I don't know. Maybe that means there really hasn't been a lot of research, and you can't find the research to back it up. But
Yeah.
but of course, he didn't say. Oh wait, no. I'm wrong here because I'm looking at this chapter, this section, but he says that more than 60 meaningful studies show very little benefit from exercise as a means of weight loss, losing weight. So I guess there is 60 studies at least.
And maybe we're talking about like just eat whatever you want and exercise,
Right,
So-
right. I think that like I was
because
talking
very
about
few people can do that, I think.
Well, and a lot of people who are really into exercise, they're also like drinking the green smoothies and doing the salads and all this other
Mhm.
stuff. It'd be interesting to see what would happen. And maybe the people like those farmers and ranchers that are out there, they're eating their bacon and eggs for breakfast. They're grilling their meat and stuff for their food. And maybe because they have they have a more higher protein diet, the exercise is more beneficial. They're getting those building blocks, all those
Mhm.
amino acids to help build the muscle and stay lean. So maybe a combination. I'd be interested to see if there was, a study. If a study was done on carnivores and exercise, if it might show something different. I don't know, but yeah. So, but I mean, not that he didn't mention that but it does have benefits. Like,
Mhm.
you know that he's not trying to say that there's no benefit to exercising. It's the lie is
Yeah.
specific to losing weight. Yeah. So, but
Yeah, in other words, basically, if you just count your calories, it doesn't really matter. The lie is if you count your calories, it doesn't really matter what you eat as long as you are burning more than what you're taking in.
right.
That's the lie.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so that's the lie. It's which is, goes back to Dr. Fung's book, the calories in, calories out philosophy is there's no science to back that. So, but yeah, so he did focus a lot on how his workout, he is just fun activities and, doing stuff on his farm and some running but things he enjoys. That's why I love to go geocaching, because it's fun.
Yeah.
And
I've always wanted to do that.
it's a blast. You just download the app and you just start doing it, and kids love it.
I might have to try that. I've heard of it, but
if you download the app, you'll be amazed, and it'll hone in on where you live, and you'll be amazed at how many geocaches there are in your area. There's millions of them all over the world. And the free version of the app, there's still a ton. The paid version is like $40 a year, which we pay for because there's a bunch of extra, different kinds of geocaches. But when we started doing it, I just found that I was walking a lot more than I normally would, because there was something I was looking for. Like, and I'd be going up trails that I would never have gone up before, because I'm like, that's kind of steep, right? But I'm like, oh, but there's a geocache up there and I want to find it, right? So that's my favorite way to exercise, is to go geocaching when the weather's decent. So yeah, so if any of you guys watching like geocaching, make a comment, because I know it's it's a blast. And it's kind of a there has kind of a cult following, to be honest. If you start doing it, you'll realize how many people are out there that are doing it. So anyways, did you guys have anything else to comment on in chapter 8?
No, I was thinking we could go to 9. Unless she has something.
Cyber Goose says it's kind of like the Pokemon Go, except there's a real thing you're looking for.
Yeah.
But the general concept is the same. It's a GPS based, the app you use. Yeah, GPS takes you to a specific spot, but then
you get like a little prize and then you put something else back. Is that right?
Yeah, you can if they're big enough. Yeah, they have little trinkets, which is what's fun for kids. We always carry a backpack, and we got a bunch of little cute stuff that we can put in there for kids. And we don't take it very often because it's just stuff for the kids,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So
okay, so the quote on the next chapter: the specialist is too commonly hypertrophied in one direction. Oh, I've got barking dogs. Sorry. And atrophied in all the rest. Martin H. Fisher.
Yeah. So basically meaning that they are too honed in on their specific area, and they lose their knowledge in the other broader areas. So, okay. So this is the one that I was excited about because of being a GI nurse.
Yeah. I figured.
Yeah. It's like, so nuts and seeds don't cause this problem. So the lie is eating popcorn, nuts, and seeds will either cause diverticulitis or cause your diverticulitis to flare up. I was surprised by this chapter because this specialist that he talked about how he sent this patient who had recurrent episodes of diverticulitis to the leading gastroenterologist in his area where he lived, and this GI doctor told him to avoid the popcorn and the nuts and the seeds. Now, he mentioned this was in 2012 that he sent this patient, but this JAMA article, the study that was published in the Journal of American Medical Association, was in 2008, showing that there was no evidence for that being a problem. It's funny because I knew that this was not true because the gastroenterologist that I worked with knew this. I was really surprised that the gastroenterologist that he sent this patient to didn't know this. But the fact is that was something that was being told to people because the whole thought was, because a lot of times you see undigested corn or a little bit of undigested nuts or seeds. The whole thought was, maybe that they get kind of stuck in these little pockets.
Yeah.
If those of you who don't know what diverticula are, they're these little outpouched pockets in your colon wall that just is over time. Some people get them early, but most of the time it comes when you're over 40, sometimes over 50, just from a weakening of the wall of the colon, and the wall kind of pouches out and forms these little diverticula. In and of themselves are not harmful, but they can get infected. And so the thought was, well, these little particles of food can get trapped in those little pockets and become infected. But once it was studied, they found out that is not true. Not once did they find any of these foods caught inside the pocket. And the prevailing, the conclusion is that the infection actually starts from within the colon wall. And so I was kind of surprised that this doctor, the specialist, told this patient this. Another thing that jumped out at me, which I was surprised at, was he said he saw this. So he saw this patient with their recurrent diverticulitis, sent him to the specialist. And then he said he saw this patient a month later, and the patient told him what this specialist told him to avoid the seeds and the nuts and the popcorn. And he mentioned that the specialist had done a colonoscopy. Well, I really hope. So you're not supposed to do a colonoscopy until at least 8 weeks after someone is cured from an episode of diverticulitis. So I don't know. Yeah, because
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we had patients all the time that were investigating what was going on, scheduled them for colonoscopy, but then the CT scan showed up, showed that they had diverticulitis, and we always had to call them and say, no, we got to postpone until
Mhm.
you're it's settled down for at least 8 weeks, and then because it's increased risk of perforating the colon if you do a colonoscopy that soon after. So I hope that this GI doctor did not do one within that month.
Yeah.
But and that the patient had been clear already. But anyways, so I wanted to bring that up because I know that a lot of people do get diverticulitis, and if you ever do get diverticulitis, know that don't let anybody do a colonoscopy within 8 weeks of having having diverticulitis. Make sure you're over it for at least 8 weeks. But yeah, so Dr. Berry did his research and found out. Now it's interesting because he said that smoking, being overweight, eating red meat, and taking NSAIDs were the causes of diverticulitis. And I was just curious about the eating red meat portion of it and see if you guys had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, he also had mentioned about what is it, nuts and seeds and being nutritious, which I guess they would be better than eating junk. But
Yeah.
I think he's changed his stance on some things based on research since then, because I know they're going to do a new version of this book.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking that maybe the evidence really didn't point. In other words, these are just like what association or what is it, like observational studies. It wasn't really so it's like, yeah, they ate red meat, but what else did they eat kind of thing.
They
Right.
like
That's
to
kind
blame
of
red
what I'm
meat for
thinking that it
everything.
was.
Oh, they were. Oh, yeah, they can blame red meat for all sorts of things,
Yeah.
but unless you isolate it as a variable, as the test variable, you'd have to
Which
test
is
it out on carnivore.
virtually impossible, right?
Right. We're all going to end up being test subjects at some point, probably. If someone ever wants to do some actual research, we're going to probably, call on all the people in the carnivore community. But yeah, so I mean, of course, so I was particularly interested in this chapter because of the background working in GI, and just was kind of really alarmed at the things that this particular specialist said.
Yeah.
And if they did a colonoscopy, that would, I hope that is not the case. I hope that this person who was fully 8 weeks out from their last infection. But yeah, so that's kind of my feedback on this chapter.
Yeah, that was excellent. And I did not know that about the colonoscopy and having to wait. So that's good to know. I mean, I don't have that issue, but I mean, it's just good to know, and for people out there to know that.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know, like I think it was one of the doctors mentioned that the carnivore diet is easier on the intestines and the colon because when you're eating tons of fiber and you're stretching out your colon all the time, that it does over time weaken the walls. And with the carnivore diet, you don't have that. I don't know if there's any actual research behind that. This is kind of one of those things where, okay, common sense, intuitively, it sounds like it should be a rational, theory, but I don't know that that's ever been tested out.
But they do know about like what shows up in ostomy bag? Like, people who, in other words, it's always plant matter and stuff like that. There's never been, you never seen meat because most of it is taken care of in the stomach. A vast majority of it,
most of us are
from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, the stools are smaller.
Mhm.
They're less frequent when you're eating just meat. So, so I mean, and so intuitively, but then he did talk about how common sense isn't always right. So there would need to probably be a study to, which I don't think that's going to be done. I don't think anyone's going to study carnivores over a lifetime and figure out if they have less incidences of diverticulitis.
Maybe eventually.
Yes. Or maybe there'll be enough of us that there could be some retroactive studies, people that have been carnivore for decades.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in the meantime, it's a a takeaway. No, just another thing of where the doctor isn't always right. Yeah. Alrighty. You guys ready for chapter 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's move to chapter 10.
Alrighty. So this one's about men. Will this give men prostate cancer? So his quote said, formerly when religion was strong and science weak, men mistook magic as medicine. Now, when science is strong and religion is weak, men mistake medicine for magic. So it's the opposite. So back then it was the snake oil salesman, and people would think that it was the magic is medicine. Now they think that medicine is magic. So the lie is giving testosterone to men causes prostate cancer. Of course,
that lie didn't really make
That's-
sense to me anyway, because that testosterone is just a naturally occurring thing in a person, in both males and females. So, but I mean, this is about men. So it's like, why would your body, like, why would cancer build for having testosterone? You know, even though I know that they're talking about like medication, but still, it's like, unless it's a fake medication. But I mean, if it's like, what is the desiccated hormone, then I think it just didn't make sense to me why the body would reject that, or why that would cause a problem.
Well, and he did talk about how the support for the lie was based on one person.
Yeah.
I mean, originally,
some of this is
three
just so
people.
hard to believe. You know,
one researcher and 3 people.
Well, and he said that
And actually only 2.
Well, yeah. So he said that there were three men in this study, and it started out with dogs, that they were looking at dogs and because dogs are other than people, are the only animals that have trouble with their prostates. And he goes, perhaps related to the processed food diets. That's interesting. But they found that when they castrated the dogs, their prostates shrank, and that it was the same, I guess, same thing happens with human beings. And then this Dr. Huggins decided, this is in the 1940s, decided to look into it with human beings. So he had 3 men. One of the men, 3 men received testosterone injections. One of the men had already been castrated. What does that mean in a human? Is that like he'd been at a vasectomy?
Like he didn't have it anymore is what
I mean. He had his prostate removed? I don't know.
No, his male part removed.
Like, did they do that?
Maybe back then they did. I mean, I don't know. Or maybe there was a reason why it had to be removed.
You're muted, Kim.
Hey, Kim, you're muted.
I was really talking away.
Nothing's coming out.
Well, I have to yell at my dogs so much today. They're being really bad dogs. But anyway, it's the surgical, chemical, or other action that causes male to lose the use of his testicles. So basically, like
he was chemically castrated potentially.
I mean, well, no, hold on. I was thinking of
my dog's
the snip, but that wouldn't do it.
That's what I was thinking too, like a vasectomy. But yeah,
but a vasectomy is not gonna.
No, no.
This is like they would do to like probably sexual predators back in the old days.
Oh, that's true. They might have done that.
I would think, but
I was wondering if he was taking.
We don't use that term in medicine, castration.
Like whether he was looking with prisoners or something, because then maybe there was like sex offenders that they actually did castrate, and that's the only thing I can think of. I don't think we don't do that nowadays, right? We just
Russ says like maybe cancer or marriage.
Marriage. Okay, so that's like emotionally castrated. So
His wife
I
might have
don't know what kind of
removed it
marriage
for him.
he's looking at.
I don't know.
His wife might have done a Lorena Bobbitt on him.
Oh, true,
Well, that's
true.
You never know. And maybe it was her husband was not alive back in 1940s. I was thinking, oh, maybe that was who he did it on. It's not removing. Yeah, eunuchs have their parts removed, but yes, chemical castration is not removing the actual parts, right? It's just giving them the drugs to make them impotent.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. So, but the bottom line here is that he said he studied 3 men who had received testosterone injections. The report itself only addressed 2 of the men. And one of the 2 men had already been castrated.
Like the 7-country study.
It's like the 7-country study where they studied 22 and he ended up with 7. In this case, there was 3 and he ended up with one of them was already castrated. So like, why even include this person in the study?
Yeah.
Like, so he said that the lie about the connection between testosterone and prostate cancer is based on the results of one patient who had already been hormonally manipulated.
It just seems like a big game of telephone that we do in medicine sometimes. You know the game of telephone that you played where everybody would whisper and then you get back around and it'd be something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like. It's like, hey, I'm a doctor. I'm going to tell all my colleagues and put it in this paper that this is the cause of this. And so then everybody just believes it and changes it a little and just does. I mean, what?
Yeah, well,
and then we have like
on nothing.
We have treatments actually based on the lies. It's just so what?
Well, or even the fact that it leads to, they've made a link between the low testosterone and increase in prostate cancer, but yet the solution is not to give them testosterone so that to prevent them from getting low.
What I don't understand is why would giving women estrogen or men testosterone be harmful? Like that has never made sense to me. Like that's literally what we have.
Well, he emphasized
that's what we're supposed to have.
Bioidentical.
Yeah.
As opposed to synthetic.
Which I have heard recently from more than one doctor that bioidentical is a marketing term.
Is it?
I'm so confused. Like, because
seriously?
If that's a marketing term,
I'm looking.
I kind of don't believe, like, these are not necessarily doctors that I trust that said this. So I think that that's what they've been told, that that's a marketing term.
Yeah, so that they can prescribe
they can prescribe the medication that's made and formulated and not truly, bioidentical, that's made in a factory, and the drug companies can make more money.
Right.
Because that's what everything's about. I mean, I hate to be pessimistic like that. I'm not a pessimistic type person, but I mean, the more you look into this stuff, the more it goes back to the money, back to the money, back to the money.
So this is the Mayo Clinic website. So according to the Mayo Clinic website, there's bioidentical and then there's also natural. So bioidenticals is just hormones. The hormones in the product are chemically identical to those the body produces. Now, it doesn't say the whole product is chemically exactly the same, but the hormones in the product. So it makes me think there's probably other added stuff in them. And
I don't know. It's all so confusing. And then you go to the doctor and they won't even test your hormones. My doctor refused to test my hormones. She said, oh, no, I can test it now. It might be down and then it'll be up next time you get it tested. And then I got this beauty for nothing. That happens to me all the time. Didn't even do a CBC and a BMP.
That is ridiculous.
Is that not, Lynn, is that not basic? Like everywhere standard basic labs for annual labs?
Yes, it is.
Isn't that crazy? Like I thought that was standard.
It is.
Yeah.
Even I know that, and I'm not in the medical profession.
You know what they did on me? They did what they wanted to do, which was their stupid lipid panel that I gave a crap about. So they did that, and then they did. I requested a vitamin D level and a B12 level, and then I requested thyroid, like a full thyroid panel, because I've been having some symptoms of some dry skin and a little bit of hair loss, which those, it's kind of vague. It could be from a number of things, and but I'd had some other symptoms a while back of sort of autoimmune type stuff. So I keep thinking, I hope I'm not getting Hashimoto's. And so I had to argue with him for 10 minutes about that. And finally he relented, and said, okay, we'll go ahead and do that. But then he doesn't do the basic stuff, like just, and then and then he sends me this message that says, oh, this is this, and if you have any questions, let me know. I'm like, okay, I have a question. Where do I let you know? You can't even, in the app, you can't even send him a message from that message he sent you. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
So finally, I find a way to send the doctor. I find a way to send the doctor a message, and guess who answers me? It's not the doctor, it's the nurse. And he says, it doesn't look like they did CBC or BMP. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, is this real life?
So they didn't even do the bare bones basic
the
lab?
bare minimum. And I told him, I said, I'm only here for the labs. So skip the statin talk. I'm literally only here for the labs. And
so
they didn't do that. It was almost like it was a big joke.
Can't your functional medicine doctor order labs for you?
Can they?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure they can, but
because now, was this your functional medical doctor that you were?
No, this is just my normal doctor.
I don't even see a normal doctor anymore.
I mean, I'm not anymore. She's fired now, and I liked her. I really did.
Doctor. Yeah,
but see, they're so expensive. Like, if I go to a functional medicine doctor, basically the fees equate to about $300 a month. I'm not doing that.
Well,
I have no reason to do that.
My insurance plan covers naturopathic doctors. So, I mean, and I was part of went to a group, and they use the same billing codes as a regular doctor's office, and they can bill just for a regular office visit with the same ICD-10 code, and it gets paid. So I didn't have any problems in that area. But yeah, I the basics.
Well, I may have to look into it.
Yeah, I would call around and see, because the ones that I've went to can bill just like, and if they're part of a group, so you're less likely if you find someone who's working independently, because it's hard for them to do billing. But if you can find an actual group, you're more likely that they'll have a billing person that will actually bill your insurance. So, but
I'm just going to do the own your labs thing, and I'm going to order whatever labs I want, look at them, and then as long as I don't have a problem, I'm just going to, I mean, they spent 15 minutes talking to me about why I didn't have my mammogram the last 2 years, and why I haven't sent this box in with my poop so they can see if I, if I have colon cancer, when I have literally no symptoms whatsoever and I have no family history. I just,
and the test,
I told him, I said, you have to realize, what'd you say?
The test doesn't even tell you for sure if you have colon cancer. So
exactly. And and it has a lot of false positives.
Yeah.
So, I just don't like, I told him, I said, I know that I have a right to refuse whatever medical treatments that I want to refuse. And he just looked at me like he couldn't believe I was going against what he was recommending,
Yeah. Well, you got to be careful nowadays when it comes to, you got to be in charge of your own health. That's for sure.
Oh, and you know what he said? I told him, I said, I've seen a lot of just routine medical treatments or testing that would have been totally unnecessary from my point of view, that have actually killed people, and I'm not trying to be irresponsible with saying that, but I think we all know that there are risks to any test that you have. And he says, oh, but the risk is so small. I said, it may be small, but it's not going to be small if you're the person it happens to,
It's
right?
not that small. I mean, I
So
think
I
that
have
the
to
actual,
make my own mind up about this.
I think the
This is
actual data shows that medical errors are like the third leading cause of death
Yep.
in this country. It's not small.
I don't remember who it
quite
was, but I
large.
recently watched a video about that.
Yeah. No, it's definitely not small for sure. I was gonna. So as we were talking about, like taking control of your health. So like ask for your testosterone levels, guys and women. We'll talk about that in the next chapter. But I wanted to share this. This is a little bit off topic, but this has to do with just like I have a cardiologist appointment on Tuesday. I haven't seen this person. I haven't seen a cardiologist in years, but I'm getting a tilt table study done on Thursday because I may have some orthostatic intolerance. So we're trying to check and see. And then the doctor that I see, the naturopathic doctor, referred me to this cardiologist because she was having trouble after I stood and stuff. She was having even trouble getting her blood pressure to register and stuff.
Oh,
And so anyway, so I'm going to see this cardiologist on Tuesday, and she said he's like naturopathic doctor friendly. So I think hopefully that'll be okay. But he's through a large hospital system, so they, how they want you to fill out and like sign online all these documents. So they have. I haven't even seen him yet. This is the consent for care, right? So I'm reading this, and they want me to sign ahead of time that I give my consent and permission for this doctor to do basically anything they want, any tests, exams, anesthesia, medications, immunizations, x-rays, medical surgical treatments. And then this was what really, really got me. Okay.
anesthesia.
Yeah. Like, no, I'm not going to sign my life away to you.
Oh
And then here's what
gosh.
he says. So he says, I understand my healthcare team consists of physicians, nurses, and other healthcare professionals, including those in training. And then here's what got me too. I understand that my care is under the control of my attending physicians who may be employees of blank health independent physicians. I'm like, no, it's not.
Oh my God.
No. I understand that my care is under the control of my attending physicians.
Well, basically what they're saying is that they'll watch the resident do something.
And
yeah, I think that's what they're saying, but it makes it sound like what they say goes is kind of how I was interpreting that.
Then it says that the healthcare system is not liable for the acts or omissions of independent physicians. Okay, so I realize they're from a different physician group. And it says, I am aware that the practice of medicine is not an exact science. And I acknowledge that no guarantees or promises have been made to me okay. So anyways, I'm like, I'm not signing this. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens on Tuesday.
It's like bizarre. Like I have never heard of just a standard medical visit given anesthesia consent. That's absurd.
I'm not going to consent to anything if I haven't even seen you and we haven't talked about it. And I'm definitely not going to acknowledge that you're in control of my health care.
It's almost like they're just wanting to say, oh, let's just get all that crap out of the way.
Yes, I want you to just give us carte blanche to do whatever we want, and release us from all liability if we screw up.
But you know what's funny is that consent does not release them of any liability. You can still sue for whatever you want to sue for, and people do. Not that I would be like, oh, I'm going to sue, but like they have to get consent before any procedure or treatment, but it doesn't really it doesn't release them of liability.
Well, I'm not going to sign it. If they want me to sign it, they're going to have to print it out, and I cannot modify it and sign it because that's ridiculous. I'm not going to. So anyways,
most people don't even read it,
Well, the takeaway is read these things. Know what you're signing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so no, this was interesting. Like, of course, I don't know a whole lot about men's health. I mean, I got my husband, and I think he's had his testosterone tested and stuff, and it was fine, but I don't know what the doctor. I'm surprised that they don't require a do not necessitate. A few years ago, I think they did. They decided whether you were a DNR.
All right, so let's finish up here, guys.
All right. So yeah, so basically the bottom line for this is get your, ask for the test. You may have to ask your doctor. You may have to argue with your doctor, right?
And then when your doctor says no, go to another doctor or order it yourself from Own My Labs.
Yep.
You want to show the second slide? I didn't really understand the first one. I wasn't really, it basically, but his whole point was that, so the total testosterone concentrations in men have changed over the years. So like the first one that says 501 was from 1987 to 89. And then it went down 95 to 97, 1995, 97 went down. And then in 2001, 2002, it was 391. So it's been trending down in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably diet related.
Yeah.
Well, and also, there are a lot of hormone disruptors, too, in our environments and things that we put on our bodies. And
but he mentioned that based on the theory that, giving extra testosterone is going to contribute to prostate cancer. If extra testosterone made you have higher levels of prostate cancer, young men would have more prostate cancer than older men. And that is not the case.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Like I said, that wasn't that whole why to begin with just was not logical to me.
Yeah, it's really not.
Yeah, right. That doesn't even make any sense at all. All right. So chapter 11 is the women's side.
Mm-hmm.
Yay.
There's more to women than estrogen. So, all right. So the quote is from Voltaire. And it says, doctors are men who prescribe medicines of which they know little to cure diseases of which they know less, and human beings of which they know nothing.
Yeah. So apparently that's been true for a long time, not just now.
Yeah.
I just have to add a little commentary to this. So, we really can't blame them for this because, they're, the medications that they're giving, unless they took it themselves, how would they know what it actually did?
Mm-hmm.
And, I just have, I've discovered that on my own, being a nurse, I would give all these medications my whole career. And I'd be thinking, oh, this one's harmless. It doesn't do anything. It's not going to hurt you or do anything. And then I would get that medication and have to take it on my own, or I'd go through a certain procedure or whatever. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like prednisone is the devil. Something you think is so just benign and like, oh, it's just going to help them. It's not going to make them feel any kind of bad way at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took prednisone for a while and I'm like, oh, good God, I turned into Satan.
And it's very individual when it comes to something like prednisone.
Yes.
I had to take prednisone when I first had my first mast cell real bad attack when they took me to the ER.
Mm-hmm.
I felt amazing.
You feel amazing until you take it away.
Yeah, but I only took it for 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you're on a longer course, but I dealt with people on prednisone all the time because I was dealing with patients with Crohn's flares, ulcerative colitis flares. And there is a subset of people who have really severe side effects, like what you experienced. I mean, I had this guy who said, I really don't want to go on prednisone again, but I know I really needed to get this flare under control. I'm going to have to go stay somewhere else because I'm afraid I'm going to hurt my wife because of how it put him in a rage, and it can do that. So
I believe it. The way it made me feel there was two things I really did not like about it. One was when you're on it and you're feeling really good, it's when you're on the higher doses, you're feeling really good. It's like you're just ravenously hungry. Like I was just ordering Chinese food and just like I wanted one of everything. And then when you're like the taper will make me feel weird. Like, so when you start tapering down and it's, you're tapering, but I mean, I don't know. I don't remember all the details because it's been a while and I've just never taken it again after that. Thank goodness. But man, it just made me feel so irritable and just mean.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, now you know that's what prednisone does to you. So
Yeah.
we hope
And I
you
mean,
won't need it
but
again.
you don't know. Like, in all fairness, you don't know. And people can't just go around taking medications for no reason, you know?
Yeah. Well, and we
So,
know that the medications, we know that medications work. I mean, when you're working in an acute care setting, I mean,
yeah.
you
And
know,
some,
you give,
some are very necessary, you
like you
know?
give someone Lasix and you see it works.
Yeah.
You know, there's no doubt that it works.
Yeah.
And
I
people are
mean, we're by no
better.
means saying, oh, yeah, medication's evil. You know,
Right, right.
sometimes prednisone is absolutely essential,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you
Oh,
know,
and
for
you can
treatment.
you can see medications, you know, helping people get out of a dysrhythmia, and you can see it, all these medications that we use in an acute care setting, but it's different than medications that you use, like if you just have a chronic illness. You know, you can handle dealing with some side effects when you're dealing with a life-threatening situation.
So the problem is, running tap is that these medications have different effects on everybody, you know?
Yeah,
So, I mean, there are very few that you could just call all across the board bad, you know?
yeah,
Um, and
Yeah, it's
then
like diet,
unfortunately in
really.
our system, in our sick care system, that's what doctors do. They give medications to treat conditions. You know, I want to be part of a wellness system
right,
Mhm.
myself,
right.
you know, as
And
as the patient.
and it can be as specific too, like even let's talk about like over the counter medications even. There are people who do fine with a brand name and don't do well with a generic.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it can be that individual and that specific to you as far as how you handle a medication. Somebody else may be perfectly fine with it. Don't use
What
logic
is
on me.
it just may work. What is PMSL?
Yeah, what is
Yeah,
PMSL?
I don't know what that is either. I've seen that, but I don't know. I don't
I
recall
know what
what it
PMS
is.
PMSL.
is.
Or I may
Yeah.
not have even known what it was.
It is, let's see here. Oh,
Pick up
peeing
the L.
myself laughing.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
okay.
funny. That's funny.
So it is not a medical term.
It's not a medical term. No,
I was like, I've never heard of PMSL. You've got that?
funny. So it's kind
No,
of
I
like
mean,
that.
and
Okay.
I'm not trying
ROFL.
to, say anything like, criticize you or anything like that. It's just, when I say things, sometimes I'm speaking to myself as well. I'm like, we can't overgeneralize,
Yeah. Well,
but
we're talking as nurses too who've worked,
yeah.
work in
And
the
we have a
system.
responsibility as nurses to not, like I have to watch what I say because, you know,
Yeah.
And I'm retired
I
and
have a license
I'm retired,
and
so I don't
Lynn
have
can
to
say
watch what I
whatever.
say. But I still do. I've worked in acute care settings, and so I do know that medications work and they can save your life.
Yeah.
And when you're like weighing potential side effects to you're going to die if you don't have this,
Well,
then you
yeah.
deal with the side effects. There's
And a
procedures.
lot of our patients, they're really, really ill, especially
Very,
where I work. By the time they get to us, some of them are just on death's door,
yeah.
and we bring them back to life with these medications. But when
Oh,
we're talking about outpatient stuff and am I willing to do this or do that test, take this medication, that's me, number one. That's my one body that I have in my one life,
yeah.
and I make decisions for me,
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes you never know how someone's going to react until you take it.
Yeah.
But so the lie for women is menopausal women usually don't need progesterone, and they definitely don't need testosterone. If they need anything at all, they need only synthetic estrogen to control hot flashes. So that is the lie. And it made me think because my doctor tests all my hormones, and it's like I'm 55 and I'm still not in menopause.
Mhm.
I'm not complaining. It's like, but I'm like, so I haven't paid too close of attention for myself on all the different female hormones. And so I totally get the fact that you associate progesterone and testosterone as a male hormone, but his point is it's not. Females produce testosterone. He said they need like 1/10 of what a man needs,
Mm-hmm.
but we still produce testosterone And what did he say, that there's testosterone receptors in our heart and different parts of our bodies? So like,
yeah, and progesterone in our brain, progesterone receptors in our brain. So what's crazy is they always tell women who have had hysterectomies, you don't need progesterone because that's just for your uterus, but it's not. So now I'm really confused about that. I'm going to have to look into that.
You want to tell the story he told about women and hysterectomies? Did you were reading that?
Which part?
So support for the lie.
Like
you can go ahead.
I can read it. I can read it. So he says that women have unwittingly drawn the short straw as patients for hundreds of years, which is true. Then he brings up this example.
Oh yeah.
Hysteria,
I remember now.
Yes, hysteria and hysterectomy have the same root which is from the Greek word for womb, or hystera. In the past, doctors thought that a woman acted too hysterical outside the social norms of the time, and it was because the uterus was wandering through her body and making her crazy. The solution was for her to have a hysterectomy, or surgical removal of the uterus. He says, no, I'm not kidding. That was the standard of care for medical diagnosis and treatment for years. The smartest doctors and experts in the country at that time agreed on this diagnosis and treatment plan for thousands of women. Keep this story in mind when your doctor tells you a medical lie and then says that all the experts say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was blown away by that story. It's like, so
yeah,
consensus does not equal scientific fact.
Right.
Exactly.
Truth. Yes.
Yeah. And then another thing that he was talking about too was about the poor treatment women have received about the testosterone. And there was a medication that was given to men, and they found that it was toxic for the liver. Yeah. And so they stopped prescribing it to men, but they would still prescribe it on occasion. I mean, understanding those that a lot of them didn't even prescribe it at all, any form of testosterone. But when they did, it would be this drug, so it's like, what's the deal with a woman's liver versus a man's liver?
Right.
Our livers don't matter.
Right. Don't matter. So that drug was methylated testosterone.
Yeah.
So you guys out there, or women, it is part of a combination pill called estrogen.
Yep.
It's combined with estrogen and this methylated testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they stopped giving this to men because of the effects on the liver, but they have it still as part of this combo pill for women.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently women's livers either function differently or they don't matter. That was really shocking.
Yeah, I think they just don't matter.
I just think they don't matter. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, healthcare equity. Thank goodness it has improved a little over the years.
Well, and so thinking about it too logically, part of me wonders, and this wasn't addressed, and if we ever got a Q&A with Dr. Barry, I might ask him this, but is it dose dependent? I'm assuming they're not giving women the same dose of this methylated testosterone as they would give men.
That's a good question.
Well, that's probably true because women would need less of it.
Yes. So, and there are a lot of medications that can affect you negatively at a higher dose that are safe at a lower dose. So my thought is I feel like I need more information before making a judgment call on this one. Because if it was a 10th of the dose they were giving men, then maybe it's okay.
Yeah, but here's the thing. If women need less, I mean, like, in other words, if you were giving men the amount that they needed, which obviously they need more, and it was toxic to them, but women need less, I'm just thinking that it could possibly still have a bad effect because women would need less of it to begin with, but I mean, that may not be good logic. It's just
maybe it's like a little bit of rat poison is okay, you know?
It could be. Or maybe that rat poison builds up after time too.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's definitely a lot of medications that are safer. Like Tylenol is a good example.
Right.
It's a simple example that everybody can relate to, right? Mm-hmm. You know, under a certain dose, Tylenol is okay, but when you get too much, you can cause big problems with your liver. So it may be that it's dose dependent.
Yeah.
And the doses they were giving men were just too high for their liver.
Okay, so I know Carrie had a hard stop for 6 o'clock. Well, for on the hour, whatever time
Yeah.
zone
Yeah.
you're in.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to scoot.
You want
I
to do
was-
more chapters next week?
Yeah,
So 12,
sounds
13,
good.
14, 15?
Yeah.
12 to
12,
15?
13, 14, 15. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want to carry on for a few more minutes, Lynn, to wrap
Yeah,
this up?
yeah, you and I can wrap
Okay.
things up.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll just leave it going like I did that other time, and I
Yeah,
apologize for that, but
Oh,
That's
no
okay.
worries. I
life
can't stay
happens.
long. The boys have their lesson this week, so.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn my camera off so you're not looking at a blank room.
Okay,
But,
bye, Carrie. Good to see you this
You
week.
guys have
Bye,
a great
Carrie.
rest of the day, and I'll be seeing you next week.
Yeah.
Okay, see ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So, all right. So, yeah. So, let's see. Anything else you want to talk about estrogen other than the takeaway, which for me was get your testosterone and progesterone levels checked, not just estrogen.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, this is just a kind of a selfish topic that I'm bringing up right now, but I want to know about my own. Like, who do I need to go to? Who do I have to know to get mine tested and
I mean,
to actually maybe get some replacement if I need it?
My naturopathic
Because I've
doctor tested mine.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to look into that. How did you find that doctor?
So this will be a plug for anybody who's in the Washington, the Pacific Northwest area. But in the city of Everett, there is a group called Purity Health, and they're all naturopathic doctors. Now, there's more than one here, and it may be that it's more of a West Coast. Like there may be more NDs in the West Coast. I don't know, but because we're kind of alternative, general on the West Coast. But yeah, so they're called Purity Health, and but they have a whole group of doctors and all naturopathic doctors there. So it's a good place to go if you want your insurance to cover it, because they'd have a billing person that will bill your insurance.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to do some Googling. Right now, I don't feel the need for any doctor at all.
Yeah.
And I'm just like mad. Like I'm just done.
I would too. I mean, I'm
so mad. Like I feel like writing a nasty I mean, it's not my personality to do that. Like I'd rather just vent about it and then just, okay, whatever, I'm over it.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely not giving them another chance, because last year my doctor actually left my annual visit and went straight into a Zoom meeting, which I know she's so like just bound by the time limits of the system. And I get that. And I felt bad for her, but like, she didn't even order any labs at all last year. I had to say, hey, I need my labs ordered, and then she's like, oh, which ones? I'm like, just the standard yearly labs. I thought that was common knowledge. I mean, am I weird? Like,
yeah,
it makes you like think, am I crazy? I've literally been ordering these same labs for doctors for years, and where are mine?
Yeah. So does your doctor just order a CBC and a CMP or a BNP?
So normally CBC, BNP, MAG, let's see here, B12 and vitamin D upon request, but those are the ones I get. I'm sorry.
They order magnesium?
Well, yeah, that's pretty standard.
My doctor would never order a magnesium.
Really?
Yeah. Well, which doesn't make sense to me because, so my doctor would order a CMP. So you got a basic metabolic panel. My doctor would always order a comprehensive metabolic panel because that actually includes liver enzymes too.
And sometimes they will, but I mean, I'm like,
but it doesn't include
basic
magnesium. So like for those of you who are interested in magnesium and your doctor says I got labs. Well, if they order a comprehensive metabolic panel, it doesn't include magnesium. So you got to ask for that separate. At least I mean, one mine checked.
In the hospital, it's pretty much CBC, BNP, MAG, and ionized calcium. Those are the ones that we get on almost every patient every day.
Yeah. And INRs and a lot of times. checking their
I mean,
clock.
that's just dependent on their diagnosis,
Yeah.
but that's just
It's a
standard
basic.
on almost every patient.
Yeah. Yeah. So so my doctor did test all these things for me, and which is how I found out that I'm not in menopause yet. I don't know when I'm going to end up in menopause. Like my
Well,
mom was 50, but
might be a while.
my sister was 55 when she went into menopause. So,
Yeah, Susan, her doctor actually orders the labs ahead of time, so they can actually review them with you. I mean, what a concept.
yeah,
I just wish I could get some, period.
There's a plus and a negative to that. If you're like Kim and probably me, where you end up with a bruised, arm where you have all your needle stick, is like they'll order the basic labs, but what if you need more? Like then you got to go back.
Oh, yeah, I see that. Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think of that, but I haven't really worked in an outpatient setting, so I could see where you coming from that setting, you've probably dealt with that a lot.
I mean, it's good. I think in general, I think that's great. I think it
Yeah.
is really good. And I think in probably most cases it's nice. I'm just coming from somebody who's a really difficult stick. It's like, oh, if they ordered more, I'd be like, really? My
Yeah,
bruises
I mean,
are
I'm
still
not an
there.
easy stick, obviously, but she did a little bit of digging there, so I'm not surprised.
yeah.
It's,
I've had I've had three kind of four minor surgeries, but two were kind of like investigative. But both of those times, I remember it took 3 people 45 minutes to get an IV in me.
Oh my gosh, you poor thing.
I
That's
know. I was
awful.
poked so many times, and they were like, "Oh, do you want us to use lidocaine?" No. Lidocaine burns, and it's an extra poke. Just do what you got to do.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's awful.
So,
I always say though, I have stuck so many people and I've had to stick so many people multiple times over the years. I'm just like, take your time. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. I deserve all of it, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, me too.
It's paybacks.
I can handle it. Don't worry about me. Just, and even if they're like, oh, I know I'm not supposed to fish around for the vein, I'm like, fine, fish,
Yeah. Like I just tell them like, just take your time. I'm not sweating it. And I'm very easygoing because, I know how it is when somebody says, you got one stick. You're like, well, buddy, you just ruined it right there.
Yeah.
Now I'm definitely not going to get it.
Oh, yeah.
You want to put the person sticking you at ease.
That's right. That's right.
Definitely.
So, okay. So, all right, let me see if there's anything else we need to talk to about this.
I think we're about to the end of the chapter there.
Yeah. So he did talk about, so he said that researchers did just enough research to show the synthetic estrogens in products like Premarin are sufficiently safe for the FDA to approve the pills. After that, all meaningful research stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't like the wording there. Like I'm not his wording, but just, the drug company's wording. They're not the most trustworthy.
Right. He said there's
sufficiently safe.
Exactly. It's basically, it's not going to kill you, so therefore we can give it to you. It's not going to put your organs into failure. So he said there are many studies sponsored by Big Pharma that demonstrate that one fake estrogen is better than the other. However, no studies have been done to compare synthetic estrogens to bioidentical estrogens, although this research should be at the top of the to-do list for doctors in this field. So, but yeah, so it's interesting. He said even now, most doctors tell their patients that progesterone acts only on a woman's uterus. If she doesn't have a uterus, they say she doesn't need progesterone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he says we're to assume the progesterone receptors in a woman's brain were put there to serve no purpose. And that we have testosterone receptors in our hearts and our brains. So obviously we need progesterone and testosterone as women, as well as the estrogen. So I've heard, I don't know if this carries out for women, but I've heard from a lot of people in the carnivore community that the carnivore diet increases testosterone in men naturally. Have you heard that?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it does in women too. I think it
Makes sense.
optimizes hormones, you know. Well, I mean, I'm not saying
Yeah.
across the board, but it tends to lend itself to more optimizing of hormones.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, you can feel it too. You can tell when you start eating this way, and it's just, you know, any sleep problems that you have, any hot flashes, anything like that that I have when I'm eating just carbs and junk, it goes away
Yeah.
completely. And I've tried it on multiple occasions. I've, you know, done tests on myself. I'm always doing that. And it goes away, you know. I
Yeah.
mean, you wouldn't think, like, I understand how a person, just a normal person watching this, is probably like, just eating meat, that can't be good for you. You know, that's, I mean, I get it. It doesn't sound like it would be because we're
Right.
programmed to not think that.
Right.
But yet you have to look at, if red meat were bad for us, we wouldn't be here.
Right. We as a species would not exist.
Yeah,
Because that
our
was the diet.
ancestors ate a heck of a lot of red meat.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of these modern day diseases at that point. So,
Right.
you know,
Right.
that's just common sense.
Exactly. So the takeaway, one of the things he says is, if you're a woman, and he says older than 35, and you have fatigue, anxiety, insomnia, and or depression that's plaguing you, ask the doctor to check your hormone levels when he's checking all the other labs. And so make sure it's also testosterone and progesterone.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I know he says, ask, if he doesn't include testosterone and progesterone, ask him why. If he tells you that a woman doesn't need testosterone, or worse, if he says that it's a male hormone, let the eye rolling and walking out begin. And you can also give him a copy of this book. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so he says he makes sure his wife, Nisha, is, you know, getting her hormones checked. He says he feels it's his responsibility as a husband and a doctor to make sure she's.
I thought that was so sweet.
I thought that was really sweet too. Yeah.
I
So,
adore Dr. Berry and Nisha. And well, I don't want to say Nisha more than Dr. Berry, but, you know, I relate to her and I like to watch her stuff. And I told him jokingly when I met him for the first time in Louisville, I said, tell Nisha that the only person that I wanted to meet more than you was her. So, but
love it.
anyway, all right. So have we about wrapped up that?
Yeah, we wrapped it up. So we're going to do 12, 13,
Yeah.
14, and 15 for next week. And the
Okay.
chapters are small, so I think the 4 chapters was good.
Yeah, I think so. And just real quick, if anybody wants to follow any of us on YouTube or just check out our channels, I am Nurse Kim. I'm at Nurse Kimberly Lane. Lynn is at Midlife Carnivore, and Carrie is at My Metamorphosis with an O in the middle. And yeah, just come check us out, and we'd be happy to have you.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here, guys. And thank you, Lynn. Thanks, Carrie.
Yes, and thanks to Kim. Kim is our official host. So
official.
Club. Yes, so thank you, Kim.
I'm official.
You're official. That's right.
All right. Well, I got to get these boys to their band practice. Yeah. So we'll see you next week, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.